This was my first vegetable garden, and this is my garden now, 1 year later. If I had the chance to restart and do things completely differently, here's all the things I would do. The very first thing I would do if I could restart my garden is this. I would start simple. When I started my garden, I bought a ton of different varieties of plants from my local garden center. Tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, celery, lettuce, onions, broccoli. I do recommend for gardeners who are just starting out to buy plants from a garden center instead of starting from seed. But I definitely overwhelmed myself by buying a ton of stuff I didn't know how to grow. If I could restart, I would narrow my growing options to just a few plants based on the following criteria. They'd have to be plants that A, I like to eat, and B, are easier to grow. One plant that fits both of those categories for me personally is summer squash. Zucchini or courgettes are one of my favorite vegetables in the garden. That's because they grow quickly, give you an abundant harvest of food, and I just love how they taste. One complication though is that squash requires a ton of space. I didn't know that when I first started, and I crammed my raised bed full of squash. One might say I did the same thing this year, but... So the second thing I would do when first starting out in my garden, if I could totally restart from ground zero, would be to practice square foot gardening. When I brought my plants home from the garden center, the only info I had on spacing was what was on the little tag with the plant. And I don't think I even followed those instructions very well. I had a bunch of cramped broccoli plants that were covered by a ton of tomatoes. And I had zucchini and cucumbers fighting for the same resources while the cucumbers were strangling the rest of my plants. I didn't even know I was supposed to have a trellis for my cucumbers when I started. But since then, I've learned about square foot gardening. I read this book, I look at the pictures, and I watched a ton of different YouTube videos about it. Maybe I should make a video about square foot gardening. Let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. The basic premise of square foot gardening is this. It's in the name. Divide your garden into square feet. This is easier with raised beds that are of uniform size. Each plant has a certain number of plants that fit into each square foot. For example, you can fit 16 radishes in 1 square foot, you can fit 4 lettuce plants in 1 foot, and a whole zucchini plant takes up like a 3 foot by 3 foot area all by itself. There are lists and indexes out there with info on every single plant that you could imagine, and there is a ton of online discourse about square foot gardening. Some people don't even believe in it. Some people believe the opposite. They think you can fit way more plants into tiny spaces. And I'm not here to tell you how you should garden. I'm here to tell you the things that I would change if I could restart my garden, so you can avoid making all the mistakes that I do on a daily basis. The third thing I would do if I could completely restart my gardening journey would be to organize myself better. I have ADHD, so whenever I'm daydreaming of my goals and plans for the garden and everything I should do when I get home, by the time I get home, it's a big jumbled mess up there and I have no idea where to even start. Something I wish I would have done from the very beginning, and something that I do now, is keeping a garden journal. That started for me with just a notebook where I jotted down my daily tasks. Eventually, that turned into me making short little daily update videos.
Say the line, Bart!
What happened today in the Nebraska Garden?
Yeah!
It's very important to keep track of the things you do right now so you know what works and didn't work when you come back to it later on. Another way I wish I would have kept organized when I started gardening, and this is probably something I could even do now still, is to create a garden calendar. What plants should I be sowing, transplanting, harvesting, straight up removing at any given time? I'm currently banging my head against the wall trying to figure out my summer and fall planting schedule. If I had a personalized calendar, that would probably make things a lot easier. In fact, I should just probably start doing that right now. So I'm gonna wrap up this video and get to work on that. Again, these are all just the things that I would personally change about my gardening journey, and I believe that everybody's gardening journey is completely valid, no matter how much or how little you grow, how long it takes you to get started. The best time to start a garden is always right now. I think everybody should garden, and that's the message I'm trying to spread with this YouTube channel. So if you liked the video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to help it grow. And if you're so inclined, hit the notification bell, get a notification whenever I post a video. Leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you disliked the video, and let me know what I could do in the future to improve. I post daily garden updates as well, as I mentioned before, so subscribe if you want to check those out. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Happy gardening.